Greetings. As someone who offers online lessons and has taken them, I would like to answer some frequently asked questions about classical guitar private online lessons. Feel free to check out the progress bar or the chapters in the description if you would like to quickly skip to any of the sections in this video. And if I don't cover a question that you're interested in having answered, then feel free to email me at margellguitar@gmail.com or leave a comment. I plan to create a comment that answers all of your questions and pin it to the top of the comment section. In this video, I'll be covering the following questions. Is in-person better than online? What kind of equipment do I need? How fast does my internet need to be? What should I look for in a teacher? How can I be a good student? What do online lessons cost? And how do I sign up with an instructor? Is in-person better than online? I would say not necessarily. Some teachers are able to overcome all the challenges that come up with providing online lessons. What you'll want to look for is someone who has strong listening skills, someone who can hear details in your playing, provide feedback on that alone, as well as someone who insists on being able to see all of both hands, which you can make sure you're doing just by checking your own video feed. If you don't know how, open up settings in your meeting software and then select the video settings. You'll get a live feed and then you can position your camera so that you can see both hands while playing the guitar. That's really, really important for your teacher. It's super helpful. But your teacher can also use the Blackboard on meeting softwares like Zoom and Google Meet to provide some diagrams, or they can even hold the guitar at some odd angle in order to demonstrate, all right, how exactly do the fingers interact with the strings and so forth. If you've had a bad experience with online lessons, I would encourage you to persevere because there are great teachers out there. Your internet and your equipment do need to be good enough, but I will cover the details on that in the next two questions, and you can always reach out for help. If you have a friend who can help you with it, great, but many teachers also offer a free online consultation, and they'd be happy during that time to help you evaluate if your equipment or setup is good enough, or if you need to make some changes and how to make those changes. In fact, online can be better in some cases. It's going to give you access to specialized teachers that you may not have access to where you live. In addition to the fact that you have online tools facilitating file sharing, the whiteboard, screen sharing, transmitting files and links, and so forth. So I would say it can be done very, very well. In addressing what kind of equipment you need, I'm going to provide information for both beginners and advanced students. A teacher will help you navigate all of this information, so don't feel overwhelmed. And like I mentioned in the last section, many online teachers are happy to provide a free consultation. So you can usually find out just by meeting them whether or not your equipment is good enough, and if it's not, they'll be happy to help you navigate exactly what changes you need to make. From beginner to advanced, I would say that the camera and microphone on a laptop, in addition to headphones, is more than adequate. For better quality, you can upgrade your headphones and webcam, and I will provide some specifics on all this equipment coming up soon. I don't recommend using a cell phone or a tablet because there's always issues with screen size, with getting the right angle for your camera, and with using online tools together. Bear in mind you don't need highly expensive equipment, so balance your budget with your needs and don't feel pressure to spend a ton of money to get set up. If you need help with this, there's plenty of people out there who can help you. Whether it's people on forums online, a worker at the shop who sells this equipment, whether you have a friend who knows their way around this stuff, or your teacher, there's lots of options for getting advice about how to navigate this stuff. It's basically one of those things that you need to know what you need to know, but you don't need to know everything on video streaming. If you're a more advanced student, you're going to benefit from higher quality equipment. And the general principle is that your needs grow as your skills grow. All right, let's get a little bit more technical. Don't get scared. It's nothing too crazy. First, we're going to discuss cameras. You don't need the best, but don't buy the cheapest camera. There are some really bad ones on the market. And cameras basically stream Generally, you're going to see these two resolutions, 720p and 1080p. Image resolution refers to how high a quality image you're going to send. Zoom and Skype can stream 1080p, and Google Meet is capped at 720p. But I would say 720p is plenty for online lessons, so don't worry about getting a camera that goes beyond that unless you want that for your own personal use. You might use it for video recording as well or something like that. If you want to see the difference between 720 and 1080p, you can pull up a YouTube video that's recorded at 1080p, and then you select the image resolution by pulling up the settings cog, and you'll see the different resolutions that are available. So just search for a video that's high res, is what it's called, and tons of things will pop up. Pick one that interests you. Manually set it to 720p, watch 10 or 20 seconds, and then manually set it to 1080p, watch 10 or 20 seconds, and you'll see the difference right away. It's a pretty big difference, but if you're streaming lessons, you don't need 1080p. It's much more than you need. You're also going to see something on cameras called FPS, or frames per second, and that refers to how many frames get recorded every second. 30 is a really common standard, and I wouldn't even worry about going beyond that. Some cameras go up to 60 frames per second, which is twice as much. However, Zoom, Skype, and Google Meet all are limited to 30 frames per second. So if you're concerned about streaming lessons, there's no point in going beyond 30. But if you want to do some video recording, then by all means, go for it. The next topic I'm going to cover is headphones. It's really, really important to have headphones because otherwise you can get audio coming out of your speakers and getting picked up by your microphone, and it creates a loop, which can create feedback. It's really obnoxious. But it also provides much more quality hearing. You're going to be able to hear much more clearly when you have headphones on, which makes a difference just because of the challenges that come up with doing online lessons. You want to be able to see well and you want to be able to hear well. There are three main types of headphones. You've got on-ear, over-ear, and earbuds. I'm going to start with over-ear. Over-ear headphones are headphones that go around your outer ear. So this would completely cup the cartilage coming off of my ear here. They prevent sound leakage, which means they prevent sound from getting in very well. So when I'm in a lesson, I'm not going to hear a lot of other noise around me. They're comfortable because they're usually padded really well. And the one big drawback I would say they have is that they tend to heat up. If I'm teaching lessons for 2 or 3 hours, they start to get really warm, and that can be a little uncomfortable. But other than that, I would say they work very, very well. Another option is on-ear headphones, and that would be where that pad actually rests on top of your ear's cartilage. I personally get a lot of discomfort very quickly. It starts to hurt very badly for me when I wear those. And they don't prevent sound leakage nearly as well. If you're going to be doing lessons for half an hour or an hour, usually the heat issue isn't an issue with over-ear. So I feel like over-ear tends to overshadow on-ear in just about every respect. In regard to earbuds, I recommend against them in general. There are many studies that show that they can cause long-term hearing loss. And while I'm on the subject, I would say regardless of whether you use on-ear, over-ear, or earbuds, never ever deliberately use your headphones to drown out sound around you. That is a recipe for destroying your hearing. Microphones. A medium quality webcam will have a good enough microphone for lessons. So don't worry about having to buy some complex setup. But if you do want to record for videos, then by all means you can buy a nicer microphone. And nowadays they actually have microphones where the microphone plugs directly into your computer with a USB cable, which saves you the trouble of having a mixing board and all of that, which many people wouldn't even have a use for outside of what they're doing. So that can be a simple solution if you're into that. But if you're doing lessons, then a medium to good quality webcam is going to be more than adequate for doing online lessons. One other factor is turn on your high fidelity audio setting. In Zoom, if you go to your audio options, there is an option to do high fidelity audio, and that's just going to send much more high quality signal. It's not going to break up and cut off as much, trying to catch when you're speaking, when you're not. And it's going to just sound much better for your teacher, and they'll be able to hear more clearly. So check if your meeting software has some sort of setting like that in the audio settings. How fast does your internet speed need to be? I would say fast enough, but it is helpful to have some extra bandwidth when you have unexpected downloads. For example, your computer might download an operating system update, or your television might be connected to your network and it might download an update without asking. So things like that will sneak in and choke your bandwidth. So generally it's good to have some extra wiggle room with your internet speed. I'm going to go into some more detail shortly, but if you're looking for a quick reference, I would say 5 down, 3 up is usually plenty for online lessons. And if you've used Zoom or some other online meeting software and it's worked really well for you, then I wouldn't even sweat it. If it does end up having issues, you're going to find out quickly during your lessons, but your teacher will work with you on what exactly you need. So here's a breakdown on some basics for internet. Your internet speed is measured in 2 numbers. Your download speed and your upload speed, which are measured in megabits per second, which is really easy to confuse with megabytes per second. It's measured in megabits per second, so watch out for that. Your download speed refers to how much data you receive per second, and that can fluctuate from your internet service provider. So for example, if you're with Spectrum or Comcast, your internet speed might vary because other people are using the internet more, or because they're having some sort of service outage. So bear in mind that your ISP may not be rock solid, and it can also fluctuate because, well, it's not actually fluctuating, it's just that another device is creeping in and using your data. In fact, medical devices even have some unrestricted access to Wi-Fi networks, so you can't really control that 100%. Upload speed is how much data you send, so from your computer to elsewhere. So for example, when you're streaming to someone else, you're going to send your video and audio to another location, and that is controlled by your upload speed. Usually it's low by default because in the past people didn't usually need much upload speed, but nowadays it's becoming much more common for a plan to come with more upload speed because people need it for video conferencing. Upload speed is vital for streaming video, so you're going to need enough in order to do your lessons. Sending 720p, the video resolution, which is plenty, is going to be a minimum of 2.2 megabits per second, and sending 1080p is 3 megabits per second. So with an upload speed of 3 megabits per second, you'll be able to send 2.2, your 720p, plus your audio, and have a little wiggle room for unexpected saps on your upload. High fidelity audio is also an option in a lot of these softwares, so just watch out for that and make sure you have it on, and it's going to increase your upload burden a little bit. You would hear your upload and download speed described with a quick, in fact I should reverse that order, download and upload speed. Someone might say 5 down, 3 up. And what they're saying is a 5 megabit per second download speed and a 3 megabit per second upload speed. You can test your internet speed really easily on Google. You just type in the search bar internet speed test, and a button will pop up that says run speed test, and you're going to find out in about 10 or 20 seconds what your current internet speed is running at. If you're having issues with your internet speed, then I would encourage you to start by disconnecting other devices. So if you have 4 or 5 devices connected to your network, go ahead and just cut them off, run that speed test again, and see if it comes back differently. If you're still having issues, you can get in touch with your internet service provider. However, some are famous for bad service. There are alternatives though. One option is to do a hotspot from your phone, which is where you use your data plan on your phone and then you create a Wi-Fi network using your phone and then connect your computer to that. That might seem like a long circuitous route to get your internet connection, but it actually works really, really well for some people. It's actually what I do personally for my internet, and it's proved to be less expensive and more stable, and I don't have to deal with the headache of Comcast and Spectrum and these other ISPs that have a really bad reputation. Another thing you can do is get advice from someone who's skilled at working with tech. There's a lot of people out there who know exactly how to figure out what your problem is and solve it. So you're not alone. Feel free to tap that network that you have and find out who can help you to solve your internet issues. I hope this is helpful, and let's jump into the next question. In looking for an online teacher, I would encourage you to bear in mind that every teacher has different strengths. You're going to want to look for the strengths that you need as a student. You need to find basically a type of synergy between the two of you. And if you're a parent looking for lessons for your child, I would encourage you to look for someone who's good with kids. Someone who's friendly, makes music really fun for your child, and someone who's energetic. The basic skills that every teacher should have is keeping appointments, being organized, providing feedback in a constructive way, and being respectful. But it's also especially important for online teachers to be clear communicators, using precise wording, and visual aids. There are a variety of ways that you can provide visual aids, whether it's holding the guitar at some unusual angle, or using a blackboard, and things like that. Just lots of tools for conveying this information in a way that someone can see it, since that's, the two main elements of interaction you're going to have, your sight and your sound. It also helps to have a teacher who's capable of explaining something in multiple ways. Some people think one way, and if you don't get it, then you kind of hit a wall. But there are teachers who are capable of taking an idea, and if they present it and it doesn't land, hey, let's present it this way. Okay, let's come up with a new analogy. And they stick with it and hang in there until you understand what they're trying to explain. So you want someone who's really patient and able to conceptualize things in multiple ways. And you'll find out. I know that sounds really abstract, but if you're not able to understand what your teacher's telling you, and if you ask for clarifications and they can't help you, then that might be an indicator that you need to look elsewhere. But there are things that take time, that it's a process to learn. And what I would say is, rather than measuring it by instant understanding and instant progress, you want to take a period of time, like say 3 to 6 months. And if you're with a teacher for that long and you don't see significant growth, then I would look around for someone else. With good instruction, you're going to grow pretty quickly. One thing to look out for is talent doesn't necessarily equate to someone being a good teacher. Some people are born into this world with a lot of natural ability, and they can do things very intuitively, but they may not understand how they're doing what they're doing, and as a result can't explain it to their students. So that's just one thing to bear in mind, that a phenomenal guitar player isn't necessarily going to be a great teacher. So don't be disappointed if you find someone who's able to play what you want to play, but not able to teach it so well. But if you're having issues in this area, I would encourage you not to get discouraged. There are many, many good teachers out there, and sometimes it just takes a little perseverance or making a switch a time or two to find the right fit for you. How to be a good student is really a matter of how to get the most out of your lessons, which you're paying for. I am going to provide some advice for parents of students at the end of this section. Starting off, I would say be humble. You don't want to pay for instruction and then not use it. And sometimes we think we can reason out why something wouldn't work, but really you're not going to know whether something works or doesn't work until you try it. So you do need to come to lessons with an open mind and be ready to change. If you don't understand something, it's important to ask clarifying questions. I know we can feel shy, especially with someone we really look up to, but you're paying for these lessons, and it's very important that you walk away with an understanding. It can really stink to spend a whole week waiting to ask a question because you just didn't work up the nerve to ask it during your lesson. And a good teacher is going to be patient and actually excited to help you understand. And there are these moments as a teacher where you see something click with a student, and that's so much more rewarding than just having them hear you and listen without, interaction. I would strongly encourage you to take notes during your lessons. It creates a bigger impact on your brain, and it's going to last longer. In addition to the fact that it will physically last longer as well. You'll have this resource that you've created by taking notes during your lessons. I would also encourage you to consider your instructor a professional, or treat it like getting a professional service. So you should provide reasonable notice for cancellations, and it's very important to pay on time. And if you can't, at least communicate. I would also set aside a regular practice time. It's very, very difficult to practice consistently if you don't do it at the same time every day. And the fact is that we human beings just thrive on having structure in our lives. What it comes down to is it takes two. It takes a good student and a good teacher. But if you have both of those, then you're going to have a very fruitful combination. If you're a parent and you're looking for lessons for your children, I would strongly encourage you to get involved. I know there can be a temptation to take a break from being a parent and just drop off your kid at lessons. However, the younger the child is, the more guidance and structure they need. And if they're very young, you might even need to participate in the lessons or even practice with your child through the week. It's really, really important, though, that practice be fun. Kids can dread practice if it feels like work, but if you can make music fun for kids, it's going to be much more motivating for them. You probably know that children are just motivated by fun, right? So when you can make it into a game or a competition that they always win, or you have some sort of toys that are involved, one thing that works really well is dice. And you can use it for, okay, if I get this option, I play this string. If I get this option, I play that string. And there's all sorts of ways to incorporate things like dice and toys into music practice. Kids love silly songs and dancing. And it's really important just to have a playful attitude when you're presenting music to a child. Because basically, you want to create in them a confidence and a love of music, right? If we think about performance results, then we're going to be really forceful and taking the fun out of music. But when they're really young, if you can just teach them that music is fun, then they're going to love music and they're going to grow up wanting to practice. And it's not depriving a child of their childhood to make them practice. I would say it shouldn't be a matter of making them practice at all. It's really, a time to play in this way. And that structure is going to actually make them happier. We as human beings actually are happier when we have structure in our lives. Say when we sleep at a consistent time, I feel better physically. In the same way, children actually thrive on structure and feel more secure when they have structure. And having a structured practice time can be a time that they can look forward to playing music. And it's going to be something that will be tricky to navigate. But if you have issues, that's okay. That's normal. All relationships involve issues, right? But what's healthy is to work through those issues. So include your teacher in those conversations and try to figure out, how can we make music fun? How can we get a practice time that my child looks forward to? What do online lessons cost? It varies for a variety of factors, but it's easy to ask. It's usually just a matter of sending an email or making a phone call. And if you have the mentality of, I'm going to shop around and talk to this teacher, talk to that teacher, then it's not going to feel like as much of a rejection or frustration if someone charges more than you want them to charge. Generally, you're going to pay more for someone that has collegiate training, but they're also going to be more capable to answer all the weird music theory questions and have a more thorough understanding of how music works. You really get what you pay for. You don't want the cheapest option out there, but at the same time, there are people who charge less than they should, and there are people who should charge more than they should. But you'll find out with time. If a teacher's rate isn't reasonable, you can always switch off and find another teacher. And there are lots of great teachers out there. Some teachers may be willing to negotiate a price. If you express that you're facing financial hardship, or maybe you're from one country and they're from another country and your currencies are worth a significantly different amount. Some people are really sympathetic to that. And especially if you're a good student. If you pay on time, if you give reasonable notice before cancellations, if you practice and take notes and ask questions, they're going to want to teach you, even if you can pay less than some of their other students. Another possibility is just being flexible with your scheduling. If you can't afford weekly lessons, some teachers can do every other week. Some teachers do 30-minute lessons instead of 60-minute lessons. So that might be another factor that can come into play if cost is an issue. And when you're deciding how long a lessons to take, I would encourage you that if you're a beginner, probably take 30-minute lessons. And if you're an advanced student, then take hour-long lessons is generally a good rule. How do you sign up for lessons with an online teacher? Just got to reach out. Some people it's a matter of sending an email. Some people it's messaging their Facebook business. But like I've said before, most online teachers offer a free consultation. So you can set up a time to ask any questions or see if your equipment and internet are working well enough. Or if you're a parent, see if they connect well with your child. As someone who has experience as a student and a teacher online, I can answer any questions too. So feel free to drop a question in the comments or email me at MargellGuitar@gmail.com, and I will do my best to get back to you in a timely fashion. If you found this video helpful, I would encourage you to consider liking and or subscribing. Thank you very much for watching, and good luck with your guitar playing.